Do you bring the kids ever to a show so they can see you on stage?
This is the first. They saw me last night, and I think it's the first time they've ever really seen me.
Is that a big decision?
That they remember.
Do they know their mom is Gwen Stefani?
They do. The older one is real clear on it. Years ago, when I wasn't doing anything and not having hits or anything, he was like, "Mom, you need to make a hit. Like you need to like do, you know." Like he was like really like that about it. And then when it was happening, I was like, "Look, I got this is on the chart today."
They didn't even care.
He didn't really react the way I thought he would.
You have an unusual parenting style.
Well,
what do they call it? Is there a name
so
for it?
Attachment parenting is like the umbrella term.
Isn't it true the kids sleep in your bed till every night?
People do it a lot of different ways. The fact is, in the early stages of parenting and breastfeeding, it is normal for mammals to sleep near their babies, and most adults don't want to sleep alone. So children also don't want to sleep alone. So there's a way that there's a set of, and also because like this is my neuroscience, perspective as well, it's hormonally beneficial for mammal babies to sleep near their moms in particular.
You do make
That's
a good
not
point.
bad. My kids have never negotiated with me, bargained with me to stay up, one more glass of water. They don't fear sleep. Sleep is a safe place. They now sleep together. They're 5.5 and 8, two little boys. They don't fear sleep or nighttime. And as a kid, I hated nighttime.
Yeah.
I would cry. I was up all night. That's not good either. And when I hear people oh, I can't get my kid to stay in bed, maybe they just want to know that you're around and be closer. I don't know. Figure it out.
Breastfeeding till the kid is 4, right? That's you.
Okay, so
That's heavy.
Hold on. In attachment parenting, yes, and the Leche League International and organizations that support breastfeeding. I'm also a lactation educator counselor, so I come from also a sort of educated lactation perspective. Yes, breastfeeding is a normal, natural thing that primates do, and they often will do it longer than is socially acceptable to Western culture. I was not breastfeeding my 4-year-old on the subway. When he was 2, yes, there was a trip from Coney Island where no one would have had a good subway trip if I didn't breastfeed that kid.
Right.
So
you kept him
that
quiet.
happened.
Yes.
I kept him quiet, happy, and everything was fine. So,
Part of your parenting, the kids do not wear diapers.
Oh, no. So my kids did not wear diapers. That's called elimination communication. But it's actually, I know, it's actually separate from attachment parenting. Many people, some people who do attachment parenting do this. But yeah, so you, basically babies are born giving signals when they pee and poop, I promise. Right. And if you learn those signals and reinforce them, they will give them stronger and clearer. And we taught our kids to sign. This is the sign language sign for potty. By the time they were 12 months old, they were signing for potty. They couldn't walk, talk, or eat solids. They only breastfed, but they could sign for the potty before they could even walk, talk,
Is it the same theory with a dog? Like dogs will you could teach them to go to the bathroom outside.
Right. So you're more training yourself to learn the cues that the baby will give. And if you don't reinforce them, a baby will stop giving those cues. And it's not for everyone, believe me. But yeah, especially with boys, it's easy. We just hold them up over a tree, and they would wear cloth diapers, but then they were in underwear by 17 months. There's no reward and punishment. There's no gold star. There's no chocolate chips. It's literally that they have taught you what to look for, and it's a fascinating method of communicating with your child because all they know is that you understand them and are there to support them.
How do you have a life of your own when you're that? I mean, you devote every second of your life to your kids.
Well, look, in their first years,
I admire it.
No. And in their first years, it was very intense.
Yeah.
It's very intense. And the fact is, especially in the industry, in the way why aren't you going for martinis with your girlfriends? Why aren't you going away for weekends with us? And yeah, it's hard, but I think what's amazing and what always existed in human and primate culture was a group of women who supported each other in what they were doing and took turns doing things.
It's fascinating.
So we've lost that in our communities, but that's why people do things like go to these the Leche League meetings and go to these holistic moms organization meetings because you meet like-minded people who won't make you feel crappy that you're not going for martinis.
You don't see this in any of your kids, though, by the way. You don't see them with the genetics where they are starting to hurt themselves, are they?
I have a 22-year-old daughter, and she was always much smarter than me and my friends. And I have a 6-year-old daughter. She's very intelligent. My son, 8-year-old, is very bright, but he is wired like my father.
Uh-oh.
He's very excitable. So he doesn't know what I do. I don't show them.
He'd probably get into it.
Right.
Oh, do they go? They don't see the movies. Have they ever seen Jackass movies? The little ones?
No.
No way.
No.
What age do we think it's appropriate for them to start seeing that?
When are you going to tell them who you really are?
Yeah. He told them he's a heart surgeon.
They came into my office one day, and there was a picture of me getting run over by a buffalo, and I felt so. I was like,
my
oh
goodness.
no,
Yeah.
that's just Daddy having fun with his friends.
Yeah, it's a stunt.
Yeah, and so, well, with my daughter, she never saw anything on the shows that was, that I felt that was inappropriate. And finally, when she was 14, she could see Jackass 3D. But I made her sit beside me, and I had a list of the whole movie, and I said, certain parts you have to cover your eyes, cover your ears, or cover both. And she did.
Don't you think now she's seen?
She must have seen him without.
Oh, yeah. Well, she's 22 now, but at 14, I felt for my children.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for everyone's children. But for mine,
for
I felt it was, and I'm kind of a helicopter parent with my kids. If they're climbing on something, I'm standing right under them because I don't want them to get hurt.
That's amazing.
That's why I don't want my sons knowing too much of what I do, because he has a funny look in his eye.
Yeah, he's got that look. Does Uncle Steve-O ever come over and staple his nuts, let's say, just for the
kids?
They
don't do it. They've come over, but they don't do that in front of the kids.
So what do your
what
do your little ones think you're up to? I mean,
where do you go?
They're like, hey, Dad's a movie star. They just think you're in the movies, right?
They know that I make movies.
Right.
Why can't they see them?
And that's what my daughter asked. When are you going to make a movie we can see?
Yeah.
How old are you
My
now?
oldest is 19.
Oh.
And then I got my middle daughter, Zoe, is going to be 16 in September.
Right.
And then McConaughey, the little rascal, is 6.
Are you a cool dad?
Well, what do you do when the kids say to you, hey, Dad, we're going to smoke weed? Like, do you go, oh, that's horrible?
I can't do it with you.
No, it's one of those strange conversations owing to the fact that, any conversation where I'm trying to caution them or discipline them is odd because I've had a life of excess. So it's very difficult to preach.
That's what I'm saying. So how did you handle
what
that?
do you say?
Well, I do always encourage them, if you're going to smoke it, then come to me, let me know.
Yeah, sure.
I'll get you
know
the
what
good
I mean?
stuff.
When you preach to them.
No, not that. It's just that I'd rather it be done in a way. Like, to me, the biggest problem with it, there's no problem with herb. The problem with herb is the abuse of it.
Right.
And so, but if you treat it in a sacred manner, not to say I always have.
Is it a weird decision to whether or not your kids can see you on stage? In other words, that's a very different you.
It's true.
And it's a very freaky thing for kids to see that, and it's almost like you want to keep them away from that, right?
Yeah, they've been so exposed to so much, though. Like the first one, from the moment he came out, no, even when he was in the belly, he had been photographed every single day of his life. I cannot, he used to get so upset, like paparazzi, and he wouldn't get out of the car. He would cry. And he was just hounded.
Yeah,
and
he didn't ask for any of that.
No. And so he's sort of used to that part of it. And then, I don't know, I think that, like I had a meet and greet yesterday, and he wanted to go with me to that. And that was like, I don't know if you need to go to that. But he did.
Because it's seeing mom being worshipped in a way that probably isn't healthy. I never really understood all of this.
Well, it was pretty cool, though, how it worked out. Is there was a woman that came that had multiple sclerosis, and she was her mom brought her in the wheelchair, and her sister, she was explaining it to me. And so it was really an amazing way to show him how, if you just, if you use your talent and your gift that God gave you, like you can actually help other people.
Yeah.
It was really crazy because not that recently, like a few years ago, I sat down with Stella McCartney and I got to talk to her about what it was like for her.
Can you
know what I'm
imagine
saying?
being Paul McCartney's daughter?
Yeah,
I mean,
and then I just saw Georgia Jagger and got to talk to her about her being a child of, and it was so helpful for me to get their perspective and
what
see
did they
them
say? Because I would think having a parent that is that famous like you, I would somehow think it would be like, oh, how could I ever be anything in living in my mother and father's shadow? You know what I mean?
But look at them. Both of those girls have their own lives, their own careers. They're so cool.
So what was the secret? What did they say? How did they negotiate all that?
I think they just had really good parents, you know? And like, I think that it just helped me. I think everything works out as long as there's love, and you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm learning so much, is that because I had such an idealistic childhood, it's really hard for me to understand that there's different kinds of families and different kinds of like experiences you can have, and it doesn't mean it's not going to be awesome for them. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I've had to learn, and it's taken me a long time to get to like open to that.
Brendan, you know, it's a pretty remarkable career. I guess if somebody said to you, a young guy said to you, hey, I'm thinking of going into acting, you would probably tell him, yeah, it's a great life, it's a great career, but...
I get asked this question a lot. I do a lot of fan conventions. I have done in recent years, and I've loved it. When,
you like that kind of thing. You like going to a convention. Yeah.
There's just people who are really, for whatever their personal reasons are, they're really fulfilled or happy just to make your acquaintance, if only for a few moments. And I find that really gratifying and affirming. And sometimes there are those also who I can clock from across a convention room hall, who I can tell right away that he's on the spectrum. You know, that there's somebody who needs a little more love, a little more time, because they're autistic or they have Asperger's.
Right.
And this is their world. This is where they belong. And no matter all of the noise surrounding the hysteria that goes into the whole celebrity bullshit, I always stop a train to have a moment with them, because my oldest son is autistic.
Right.
And I know how meaningful it is to their families and to them. And I'm sorry. It means a lot to feel like you can gratify someone just simply by showing up. It means a lot.
It seems like there is so many people who have autistic children. I mean, I speak to a lot of people about this, and it is probably one of life's most difficult things as a parent, because you worry your whole life, will my kid be able to be independent? What happens after I die? Will my kid be okay?
Like, what's the plan here? Can I make good with this? What will the legacy be? I know, of course, what can we do other than give ourselves a break and muddle our way through it together and do what works until it doesn't work anymore, and then find something new. And yes, you will have to fight with school boards. And yes, there will be weird people that you meet along the way who have a completely different agenda compared to what the purpose of sending a kid to a special needs school is. And you're going to encounter a lot of really colorful people, and how you navigate that all comes down to how much you know that everything's going to be okay.
I can't imagine your life with two kids. I get a little sense of it from the book for sure.
Yeah.
But I still picture Andy Cohen as a guy who is frustrated that he can't have that wild life anymore, that you're really a torn individual.
I'm pretty good with it. There are occasions. Last weekend, I was in the city with my kids. I had jury duty late last week, and it was on Friday, and I was like, going with the kids out east for 24 hours, is this going to be worth it? And the car ride and whatever. So we stayed in the city. And I had friends. My ex was on Fire Island posting up a storm, and I was like, whew. As my 4-year-old was taking me for a ride and telling me I'm mean and yelling at me and this and that, I was like, what am I doing right now? But
it's hard, right? Yeah, it's hard to give up. It's hard to give up the fun life that you had previously.
But it was I did the right thing at the right time, and I'm so glad I did it.
There's a couple of things in your book I do not believe. Okay. I do not believe that you do not have help at night to
I don't.
But I mean, it would be perfectly reasonable if you did.
I don't have a live-in. I don't want anyone living in. And last night, Ben got me up twice. My daughter got me up once.
Really?
And he got me up at 1, wanting to come in my room. I said no. And then I folded at 4, and he came in my bed.
And you're not neurotic? You don't go, oh, shit. I got to do a What's What Happens Live. I got to do a radio show. I'm doing an interview with Howard.
At around 4:15, after he fell asleep in my bed, and then Lucy started crying, I was laying there, and I was like, can a man be fresh for the Stern Show for one? In my mind, I was
Right.
I was like, I'm doing the Stern Show. I went to bed last night at 10:30, hoping that I could really come in here, just fresh.
Are you thinking about doing something on TV?
I had an opportunity recently, and it's so hard. I'm really by no means stopping my job at all, but I've had a really hard time personally figuring out how to. I can't miss out on my kids.
Right. Now,
so
if
you don't want to go away from home for a long time. And
I don't want to be at
If you
work.
do a series, you're going to be there all the time.
I wonder, because I don't know the hours of a series because I've never done it. So maybe there's something to learn there, and maybe that's the balance. But I know on a film, you wake up before they are up, and you come home after they're asleep. And I'm not willing to miss out on this. I've done this for 40 years. It's so easy to put aside for a minute.
Yes.
And just be like, I need to be a mother to these children.
Yeah, now I know a lot of people in Hollywood that really aren't mothering their children because their careers do come first. And there's that rub. I mean, and I understand why. To keep a career going, you only have so many years. You got to pick the right project. You got to be so ensconced in that world. And it's really a drag, especially for women, right?
I think it takes a lot of focus.
Yeah.
And then it really monopolizes your time. And it's, I can't figure it out. If I'm a failure for not knowing how to balance it, then I'm a failure, but I'm going to fail on the side of, but I still work. I have a beauty company. I wrote a book. I'm finding, when one door shuts, another one opens. I found time to write a book because I wasn't on a movie.
Do you ever sit there and go, like you're watching Claire Danes in Homeland and you go, shit, I would love to go.
I love Homeland.
Yeah, isn't that great?
I love when she goes shuggy. I'm like, bring it, baby. Get off those meds and let me see you fly.
And nobody goes shuggy, as you say, better than Claire Danes. Am I correct?
She really does.
She goes mushuggy.
I love it.
Yeah. And when you're an actress and you're sitting there watching Homeland, don't you ever say, fuck, I mean, I love my kids. I want to be with them, but Jesus Christ.
I could be having that fun.
I want that fun.
The first thing I do is go, God bless her in this part. She should win every award for it. I'm voting for her.
Right.
Then I think, oh my God, where are they shooting that? What country are they in?
Right.
And then I think, okay, she's a mom.
Yeah.
I should ask her how she's balancing
She told us
it.
she was in Germany for 10 months doing that with her, but she brought the kids with her.
Yeah, of course.
You mentioned you love playing with your son, but immediately what I'm thinking about, here your name is Tarantino, and yet you never knew your father.
Yeah.
You met him once when you were already a success, and he walked into I remember you told me you walked into a coffee shop.
Accosted me at a coffee shop, yeah.
Right, and you said, fuck you. I mean, I'm not talking to you. You were never in my life.
Yeah.
When you have a father who abandons you, it's heavy duty. I don't make light of that.
Yeah.
It does leave you hungry for a father.
A male figure, yeah.
Sure. And in many ways, your mother wasn't that supportive of your career, as we mentioned earlier. How did you figure out how to have the capacity to love your son and play with him when no one played with you? Did you go to some kind of special therapy? Because I think this is really important, especially for people who have traumatized childhoods, which you had.
Well, look, I'm definitely a lot older now. So if I hadn't gotten over some of that stuff, by this point in time, I probably don't deserve to have kids. But it was one of those things where I've always really, really liked kids. And it's one of those things where it's like when I hang around, if you hang around like a couple that have kids and say you're really, they're a couple of your best friends, then you're going to meet a whole lot of other couples that have kids. And they're going to come over. And I was always really good at playing around with their kids and or even these groups of kids that would come over. And it'd be literally one of those things where all the mothers would get these crushes on me because mothers get crushes on adult men that are good with kids.
Right.
And it's like, all the mothers had crushes on me. Like, my goodness, Quentin is so good with Raymond. I can't believe it. Raymond doesn't really like anybody, but he'll sit down and he'll play with Raymond, and it's fantastic. And you hear how Quentin doesn't talk down to Raymond. He talks slightly over his head, but Raymond likes that.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to meet women. I mean, it really truly is. But
absolutely, positively,
but
my wife would not have married me if she didn't think I was like good father material.